In Washington, the billionaires and Christo-fascists are destroying America. We need a fighter, a real fighter. Doug Harlan lost his entire family in a tragic, incident. While other politicians talk about fighting for you, Doug has already shown he'll stop at nothing. When he sets his mind to something, nobody stands in his way, not even his own flesh and blood. Doug has a tattoo that says Hail Satan. Some call it controversial. We call it independent, because Doug isn't owned by the radical Christian right. He answers to a higher, different power. Doug Harlan isn't perfect, but he's not Trump.
I killed my family, and I'd do it again. To the filibuster. Vote Doug Harlan for Congress, because D.C. needs more people like me willing to do whatever it takes.
Doug Harlan, he's already sacrificed everything for you.
Paid for by the committee to elect literally anyone who's not Trump.
There you go. Worst political ad ever. Worst candidate ever. But you watch. He'll do it. He'll get elected. Welcome to Mark Mosley Show on YouTube at Mark Mosley Show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share. Ask is another way that you can interact with the show. And let's get those subscription numbers up. We're doing pretty good, but we want to go higher. Oh boy, there you go, though. That is the perfect example. That's the quintessential example of whataboutism right there. Because the left hates whataboutism. It's a thing they made up. It's their favorite clapback. It's the argument killer that they made up to use anytime they get backed into the corner by the weakness of their own argument. And just one example. So you're on Facebook and you're interacting with people, and somebody posts something about Trump's illegal Iran war and how he didn't get congressional approval, man, and it's breaking international law and he needs to be tried and hung at The Hague for war crimes, man. And then you point out correctly all the other times that other presidents took military action, like when Joe Biden carried out multiple retaliatory airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen or Syria. What? Or when Obama now executed Operation Odyssey Dawn, when the U.S. participated in a NATO-led air campaign to enforce a no-fly zone and protect civilians during the Libyan civil war. He did not seek approval from Congress, arguing that it constituted hostilities under the War Powers Resolution. Operations continued more than 60 days. And how about George Bush Jr.? Well, George Bush Jr. generally did get congressional approvalification for, but that was for the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, which the left hates him for. So he gets no love for that, even though he tried to do it the right way. Or how about Bill Clinton? Back in 1999, the Kosovo air campaign, the NATO-led bombing of Yugoslavia, Serbia over Kosovo. Clinton did not seek congressional authorization. And again, the campaign exceeded the 60-day war powers limit. Congress, by the way, debated but did not pass binding restrictions like the House just did to Trump. Or how about when Bush Sr. did the Panama invasion, for which he did not inform Congress beforehand? Or how about Reagan, who, did the Grenada invasion with about 7,000 troops back in the 80s? Critics at the time accused Reagan of violating the War Powers Resolution or his Libyan airstrikes in response to Libyan-sponsored terrorism, conducted without seeking congressional approval first. Gee, it's like almost every president for the last 50 years has done the thing that Trump did. But when you say that, what do you get? We're not talking about them They're not president now. Trump is president. Stick to the topic. Whataboutism. It's whataboutism, which they hate so very, very much. Except, pivot, except when it's politically expedient for them to do it. Because let me tell you something, this Graham Platner thing is just about as whataboutism as it gets. It's whataboutism on PCP. By the way, a quick side note about Iran. It's got to be tough now when this week, Trump pokes a big hole in your whole, Israel controls the United States, the whole far left, far right, because it is people on the far left and on the far right. Their big narrative about how the Jews control Hitler, because Trump is Hitler and they're the Jews and they're controlling him. So ergo, the Jews control Hitler. But Trump poked a big hole in that this past week when it was reported breathlessly by the media that Trump told Netanyahu that he was effing crazy and asked him, what the F are you doing? And that's got to be a real tough choice because on the one hand, do we go with Trump is pissing off our allies again, or do we go with the that's fake, that's a psyop, that was a fake leak by Trump because we all know that the Jews control Hitler. By the way, can we just stop farting around with Iran already? At the end of the day, they're never, ever, ever going to actually abide by any agreement that you cut with them. You could give them, all mullahs get free unlimited gameplay at any Dave & Buster's location. It doesn't matter what you put in there. They're never going to uphold their side of it. Any peace plan they sign. And right now, they're just dragging their feet and letting their thug friends, Hezbollah, continuously attack Israel and reject, by the way, just that news just broke as of the taping of this podcast, rejecting the peace plan that was put forward by Israel and the United States to calm things down with Hezbollah. They just use anytime Hezbollah attacks Israel and Israel responds by punching back, then Iran just folds their arms now and goes, we're not talking to you until you get your boy Bibi under control over there. Handle your boy Bibi. It's games. Enough with the games. Enough. They're trying to wait you out. You know this because you have to know it because an idiot like me knows it. 4th of July, the big 250 anniversary, that's coming up. You don't want to be seen bombing Tehran on 4th of July, on America's big 250th birthday. Gas prices and everything that's affected by gas prices, which is everything, is still going up. You got the midterms coming. Iran knows all of this. That's why they just keep dragging their feet. Oh, let's keep talking. BS. The only thing that they understand is sudden, overwhelming, violent, sustained, and superior bombing the crap out of them. That's bomb them until they are so deaf they can't even hear our negotiators because they have that ringing sound in their ears, like every movie every war movie made in the last 20 years. You need to keep kicking the crap out of them until they finally get it. But back to whataboutism and Graham Platner. Here's a list of the best tweets by Maine Democrats in a whataboutistic defense of Platner. Here we go. As a Mainer, I would have to say I am more concerned with our hospitals closing and our tax dollars going to genocide than I am someone else's marriage. Graham may not be a perfect human. I don't know one. Oh, I see. Suddenly you've found grace. He has done amazing work of pulling himself from the brink of despair. I admire that. It's hard to find a politician who is free of scandals these days. Susan Collins pretends to care. We really need to get some Democrats in the Senate, so there's no other choice. This latest revelation will not change my opinion. I'm not a big fan of his behavior, but really, compared to Trump, today's GOP and most of Congress, this stuff is bull crap. We are losing our democracy to oligarchs and corporate money. It's amazing. It's breathtaking to see. I would rather the candidate I support did not sext. Certainly when he was married, I find such behavior almost indefensible. Almost indefensible. Nevertheless, I'm supporting Graham because he has a vision of a more just and equitable future. It's the sketch at the top of the show, playing out in real time. It's like it wasn't even parody, what I put together there. If Graham's wife says they've dealt with this in therapy, I believe her. How about this one? You're thinking this is an issue? Have you looked around and seen what is happening now by the people elected in Washington? Oh, I could go on forever with these. He has made bad decisions. Those decisions pale in comparison to the terrible decisions made every day by the Republicans in power. Mainers can ignore Platner's sins and elect someone who will stand up for and work for all people and for our democracy. But please, badger me some more when I, as a Christian, continue to support, anything that President Trump does. And by the way, Platner, who was polling ahead, I just read this earlier, was polling ahead by about 4 points, but it was in his own internal polls, which historically, two things. Historically, internal polls usually favor the candidate that's doing the polling. That's number one. And thing number two, Susan Collins has a tendency over her long history in Congress of overcoming bad polls where she's down by 7-8 points. So good luck. All right, well, let's talk about something related to ICE. Another day, another humanitarian crisis cooked by the open borders crowd. Cooked up, pardon the pun. Celebrity chef Jose Andres, the guy who parachuted into Gaza to feed the famine victims with your donations, is again clutching his pearls over the alleged hunger strikes at that New Jersey ICE detention center. DHS is now clapped back hard. There is no hunger strike. They get 3 square meals a day, and they get health care better than what most of them had in the third world countries that they came from. They get showers, they get bedding, they get the works. Well, they dropped the mic with the actual dinner menu. While some of us in America are, trying to figure out how to put together a good menu for our family at the grocery store with inflation. Thanks, Trump. You should be working on that a little bit harder, I think. Well, these guys are turning up their noses at meals that sound pretty good to me. Meanwhile, commissary snack sales surged 161% during this supposed hunger strike. So yeah, they weren't eating the meals served in the cafeteria, but they were sneaking off to the commissary to get some Oreos so that they didn't die of hunger. I guess the revolution will be powered by flaming hot Cheetos. Andres, the celebrity chef worth about $50 million, he wanted to see with his own eyes. He offered to go there and see and lecture us all about the dignity of people. The hunger strike really has more to do with detainees complaining that they're not getting the culturally sensitive meals that they would have in their own country, which, if that's the food you want, there's the door. But here's the menu released by DHS for the Delaney Hall Detention Facility in Newark, New Jersey. This sounds pretty good to me. In fact, I'm probably going to make myself hungry. Breakfast options. You could choose from oatmeal, pancakes, scrambled eggs, grilled potatoes, chicken breakfast meat, probably like a chicken sausage, cream of rice, dry cereal, milk, and coffee. Lunch options, a chicken leg quarter, turkey stir fry. Okay, sounds a little middle school cafeteria, but all right, let's keep reading. Beef and bean burrito, vegetarian beans, chicken fajita meat with a tortilla, Spanish rice, fideo, I don't know what that is, fideo with meat sauce, chicken fried steak. I love chicken fried steak. I remember back in the day when Sonic Drive-In had a chicken fried steak. It was number 3 on the menu. That's going back a ways, but we love some good Southern junk food. And fortified sugar-free tea, iced tea. Dinner options, jambalaya. Jambalaya. I make a mean jambalaya myself, having lived in New Orleans for many years. Meat and vegetable stew, tuna salad, Salisbury steak with gravy. Love Salisbury steak. Enchilada casserole, chili mac, potato wedges, mixed vegetables, and fortified sugar-free beverages. Detainees receive 3 meals a day. The menus are evaluated by certified dietitians. They have access to a commissary to purchase additional food items, which they did. This menu was released in response to protests and allegations of poor food quality at the facility. You know, we should put out a Cooking with Ice cookbook.
Tired of boring meals? Celebrity chefs whining about detention center food? Introducing Cooking with Ice, the only cookbook that serves up flavor and freedom. From chicken fried steak to tacos al pastor that'll make your hungry hunger strikers suddenly discover their appetite. These are the meals ICE detainees are suffering through. 3 hot meals a day, better than what your broke nephew eats in your basement. Just listen to some of the delicious recipes you'll get. Build the waffles, Molotov cookies, Deport Tort, Anchor baby back ribs, and of course, iced tea. Just in time for 4th of July barbecuing. It's the all-American book, Cooking with Ice. Because enforcing the border never tasted so good.
Welcome back to Mark Mosley Show. Well, looky here. I guess hell has finally got ice for the 2-for-1 happy hour drinks because it has frozen over. We got Steve Hilton, Republican, as the top vote getter in the California governor's race primary. And in L.A., Spencer Pratt came in second. 2 non-liberals in a state so blue, so very blue. How blue is it? Why, California is, I'm Johnny Carson. I'm the ghost of Johnny Carson here. California is so blue. It's so blue, even the palm trees on Ventura Boulevard lean left. Ho, 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 ho. Yes, you are correct, sir. It is so blue. California is so blue. Its new #1 export is middle-class families. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. All right, Ed, these aren't that good. Why, California is so blue, even the homeless have unionized. Yes, they're currently protesting for shopping carts without a bad wheel. Ho, 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 ho. Yes. One more. We got time for one more. It is so blue. California is so blue. Gavin Newsom woke up the other day to a resident trying to illegally siphon oil from his hair. Ho, 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 ho. Ho, 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 ho. Shut up, Ed. No, these 2 things happened in very blue California. A lot of people wrote Spencer Pratt off when he first entered the race. Remember this moment, this delicious moment when Karen, get the manager out here, Bass, derided him on a podcast.
Well, honestly, before this, I had never heard of Spencer Pratt. So,
well, you aren't missing out on anything, so it's okay, but please go on.
Exactly. But the thing I am concerned and feel about him is that I feel like he's exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades, and I think that's
right.
Reprehensible.
Which was not completely unlike this famous moment in recent political history.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump.
But yeah, that was a big mistake on Karen Bass's part. The reality TV star and political outsider is currently sitting in second place behind Mayor Karen Bass, remains in a strong position to advance to November's runoff election. Bass leads with roughly 35% of the vote. Pratt sits around 30%. Progressive City Councilwoman Nithya Raman remains in third place as late arriving mail ballots continue to be counted and will continue to be counted until we find enough votes for Nithya Raman to move into second place. Wait, here's a whole bunch of ballots we found under this conference room table at 3 o'clock in the morning. After we told everybody that we're done counting for the night, you guys head on home. Yeah, we're done. All right. Good night. Drive carefully. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Sleep tight. Nighty night. Are they gone? Okay, good. Get those ballots out. We got a whole box of 100% Joe Biden, Nithya Raman votes. While California's mail-in ballots have narrowed Pratt's lead somewhat, he still maintains an advantage for the second runoff spot. But we'll see how this plays out. There are still lots of ballots to be counted due to California's whole mail-in situation. You know, the bigger story is that a Republican outsider is even competitive in LA at all. It tells you a lot about voter frustration, about the homelessness and the crime and all the corruption and the general direction of the city of Los Angeles. And by the way, Nithya Raman did get emotional on Tuesday night. Let's take a look at that video.
Karna and Kaveri, I hope you know that everything every person in this room is fighting for in this campaign has been about building a city that's worthy of you and every child in this city.
I got no comment on that. I can respect that love for family and the sacrifices that they've all had to make to try to help mom become the mayor of LA. And it could still happen. It could be a 1980 U.S. hockey team come from behind win. Dreams can come true, especially here in the City of Angels, which ironically is run by demons. They'll get all those votes counted eventually. In fact, this just in from our friends at the Babylon Bee. More breaking news on the show now. California announces they have finished counting the votes. Ronald Reagan has won the 1966 governor's race. Dateline Sacramento, California officials announced on Wednesday they had finally finished counting the votes, and Ronald Reagan had officially won the 1966 governor's race. Exit polling data showed Reagan with an early lead on the night of November 8th, 1966. But election officials were hesitant to declare a winner before each and every vote was painstakingly tabulated. Now, 59 years later, Reagan was declared California's next governor. I'm excited to see how Reagan will clean up our state, said one voter. He didn't say much about the fentanyl crisis back in 1966, but I'm confident he'll work hard to get it off our streets. Is this the beginning of California becoming a red state? Too soon to tell, say experts. What concerned voters in 1966 doesn't necessarily concern them today, said Dr. Abel Hemming, a political strategist and historian. Reagan doesn't even have a plan to prevent wildfires because they weren't a big problem back then. I'm just not so sure how well he's going to go over with today's Californians. Reagan, just a former screen actor, could not be reached for comment. Back now on Mark Mosley Show. Don't forget to follow me on all social media at Mark Mosley. And we're on the subject of LA's mayoral race and reporting on the aftermath of Tuesday's primary. Let's go to This Week in Media Bias. Yes, time again for This Week in Media Bias. After Spencer Pratt came in second in the LA mayoral race, what was the headline? Not Pratt's shocking surge in LA mayor race. No. The headline is not the big story. Pratt should be the big story. That should be the headline. Here's the NBC4 in Los Angeles headline. Notice the headline is about Bass. That's not just the only one. How about this one from the LA Times? How Mayor Karen Bass weathered a brutal campaign and won a spot in the November 3rd runoff. Again, the headline is about Bass, not about Pratt. Do you see a pattern here? The story is, here's this reality TV star that everyone laughed at, everyone dismissed, who winds up coming in second, and who I would opine that if the election had been held a couple of weeks later, given the arc of his meteoric rise that he's on right now, he might have actually been the top vote getter. But the headline isn't Pratt, it's Bass. Now, you might be saying, what's the big deal? And what does third world counting of votes also matter? Why is that a big deal? By the way, do you know in Brazil, the polls close at by 8 p.m. The results for national races in Brazil typically announced the same night, often within a few hours. In India, the world's largest democracy, results for most seats are declared the same day. Major outcomes are known by the evening. In Nigeria, polling level, station level counting is done immediately after polls close. Results are tabulated, collated, and preliminary presidential results often announced within 1 to 2 days, with many local races declared same day overnight. In Kenya, voting and counting often occur at the same polling station on election day. Results are frequently tallied and announced locally the same day or next morning, with national results following shortly after. But in California, the greatest state in America, home of Silicon Valley, the place where computers were born, where AI was born, we'll have those votes counted for you by, Valentine's Day 2027. Until then, you just sit down and shut up, because we're busy counting votes over here. So why does that matter? Why does that even matter, how long it takes to count the votes? Well, here's one way it matters. Imagine you're watching the Super Bowl, right? And the game ends, and you see that the, Cleveland Browns won. First time ever, 45-3. Almost a shutout, an absolute blowout Super Bowl by the Cleveland Browns. You know that history's been made. So you go out and you buy yourself a Cleveland Browns Super Bowl champ shirt and a hat and a poster and anything else that you can get your hands on, and the Cleveland Browns make millions off merch sales. Now imagine a world where the Super Bowl ends and for whatever reason, you don't know who won, and you won't know until about, 3.5 weeks later. You're way less likely 3.5 weeks later to go buy a t-shirt and hat, because that initial euphoria, that initial passion and enthusiasm has just faded over time. Now you're Spencer Pratt and you just came in second. Being robbed of those headlines and the vote tally taking so long, it robs you of the emotional momentum that is naturally created that you can then fundraise off of. You don't get as many donations from bandwagoners. So it's not just about a partisan media, but it also helps chill your momentum coming out of a primary. It is a form of media bias when you see headlines like those coming out of California. And speaking of media bias, the media is very, very angry right now that they are losing some of their advantage, the advantage that they've had for decades, because now we have this encroachment of conservatism, not only into media, but also into Hollywood. And I've been talking about that for weeks on this show, how we have a lot of power brokers in Hollywood now that are producing the kind of content that conservatives and people who are not loony liberals want to watch. All of the Taylor Sheridan stuff that just dominates Paramount Plus, for example. But for decades now, I've been saying that the way to win back the conversation in America is for conservative billionaires to buy the media. Buy the media. Buy it. It's the only way that you can ever help to swing the narrative back in the direction of the right, because the media is largely owned and operated and completely controlled by the left, from ownership to the people that run it, to the editorials, to all of it. And now we see stories like CBS, Barry Weiss running CBS and getting rid of Colbert, and now reshaping the news division at CBS, and the left is having an absolute temper tantrum because Scott Pelley, who was running 60 Minutes, decided in all of his, the wisdom of his many years, that the best way to push back against this was to have a public temper tantrum, like some kid throwing themselves on the ground at the mall food court and kicking their legs until they get that Yoshi plushie that they saw at We Only Sell Imported Chinese Crap Store. That's the actual name of the store. And Mommy, being Miss Weiss, picked Whittle Scotty up and gave him the spanking that he deserved right in the middle, right there in front of everybody at the mall. And it was his entitlement that just did him in. On Monday, he clashed with his new 60 Minutes executive producer, Nick Bilton, during the introductory staff meeting. Pelley said that Bilton and editor-in-chief Barry Weiss were unqualified for their positions. He said this out loud in front of everybody gathered, the whole staff. Bilton tried to smooth things over with him, but he said Pelley refused to work with him. Now, after his firing, here's the letter that Bilton sent to the staff, who, as we speak, are all hiding and updating their LinkedIn resumes and rocking back and forth in their cubicles. He wrote, "Team, you should hear this from me first. We have parted ways with Scott Pelley. I know how much Scott meant to many of you, and I don't say this lightly. I've made repeated attempts to have direct conversations with him over the weekend, and this afternoon I tried to find common ground. That was not the path that Scott chose. What I regret most is that this situation interfered with the conversation I'd hoped to have with you about season 59, talking about 60 Minutes, and the future of this show. I realize this is a great deal of change in a very short time, and I wouldn't pretend otherwise. I won't relitigate the last week with you here. What I commit to is my unyielding support for each of you, the journalism that you do, and what we will do together going forward." And, cue the lefty media meltdown. We got Jen Psaki and Jennifer Welch on MS Now, clutching pearls and screeching about the death of journalism. And Rachel Maddow went full Rachel Maddow. Never go full Rachel Maddow. You went full Rachel Maddow. You never go full Rachel Maddow. Calling it an oligarchic takeover and openly auditioning Pelley to come join the MSNBC circle of trust.
The storied, venerable journalist and 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley has tonight been fired by the newly revamped CBS News. Yesterday, Mr. Pelley reportedly lambasted the new leadership at 60 Minutes and at CBS for effectively killing the long-running news magazine after firing scores of staff members and its leadership and after accusations of meddling in the show's editorial process. For that, directly as a result of that confrontation at a staff meeting, Mr. Pelley appears to have been fired by the network for cause. MS Now has obtained the letter sent to Mr. Pelley this evening from the newly appointed executive producer at 60 Minutes. He's just been installed there as part of the sort of bald-faced Hungarian-style oligarchic takeover of that news organization. This newly appointed executive wrote to Scott Pelley, and the imbalance in terms of journalistic experience there is remarkable, given what the contents of the letter are. The letter says in part to Scott Pelley, quote, "Yesterday you hijacked my first meeting with staff to disparage me, my qualifications, and my intentions with remarkable incivility and contempt."
Ah, yes. You see how she worded it? The storied, venerable journalists. Is that anything like the Ayatollah Khomeini with his bushy white beard and his easy smile, cutting an avuncular figure in public, known to be fond of Persian poetry and classic Western novels like Les Miserables? Come on, Rachel. Some of us might be trying to choke down the ramen noodles that we're, reduced to eating by Trump's illegal war with Iran. So cut us some slack. And she called it meddling in the editorial process. Meddling. Like, oh, you mean, so trying to, straighten it up a little bit so that it doesn't lean so hard left that it just tips over. Man, they are not happy. They are not happy. But the left treats any pushback against their, unstoppable, decades-long narrative machine like it's some kind of 5-alarm crisis. They're trying to make him into a martyr now while begging him to come spread the gospel on a network that's hemorrhaging viewers. I'm sure he's just dying to join the team at MSNBC or MS Now. When the left loses a perch, man, it's always a threat to democracy. When they get one, then it's reestablishing norms. Because they're so used to getting away with slanting the news in their direction. They hate new media. They hate citizen journalism. And some of them probably hate having to defend the narratives of a dumbed-down Democrat Party full of communists. Because what good is the media if it can't confirm your bias? I look for media that confirms my bias. I'll be completely above board and honest about that. Because I want to think that all the things I believe are backed by facts. But the left definitely needs the media to confirm their bias, which is why you get all kinds of fake Trump stories that, like this one that was breaking this past week. A screenshot spread on X appeared to show a Newsweek article containing a quote from Mehmet Oz, administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, about Donald Trump's physical exams. Here's the full alleged quote. I mean, that people bought this, you have to laugh because this is the ultimate in confirmation bias. Quote, he likes to do the thing where I hold his scrotum and tell him to cough. It's so fake, and you bought it. He's always asking if he can do the cough test. So we do it once or twice per day. He says I have very warm hands. I think it makes him feel safe, but I think it also makes him feel strong. I tell him he is very good at being the president. People always do the whole, I was just following orders thing, but I love my job and it's an honor to serve. There it is on screen. You can read it for yourself. Some social media users seem to interpret the claim as true. Snopes determined the screenshot is fake and originated as satire, as confirmed by its creator, New York-based comedian and writer Jeremy Kaplowitz. Kaplowitz said, "It is indeed satire," in an email to Snopes, but in my heart, I know it is also real. By the way, Kaplowitz told Snopes he made the post with the Google Chrome browser tool Inspect Element, which allows you to change the text on a web page. Oh, I'm going to bookmark that. The Newsweek article was referencing a real statement from Mehmet Oz during a White House news briefing. But Snopes debunks all kinds of stuff like this, like they did back in January with a story on Trump farting. Here's one from January, which I missed. Breaking: a top oil company executive says Donald Trump, quote, smelled like roast beef during his big White House meeting on Venezuela. He farted audibly no less than a dozen times and kept getting up to look at and compliment the non-existent ballroom like he's senile. Oh, you got to laugh at some of this stuff. You got to laugh. Well, we like to break wind. We love to, you know what we love to do? We love to make Marco Rubio pull our finger because, you know, being Hispanic and never having grown up with pull my finger, he falls for it every time. He pulls my finger and I just let one rip. I just let loose with a big old roast beefy fart. And then I drop the line, Arby's, we have the meats. And the whole place cracks up and Rubio gets so mad. So very mad. You just got Trump tooted. Welcome back from the break. And more Marco Rubio news now, by the way. Rubio has just learned he will have, there's the picture there, he will have to headline the America 250 concert after Bret Michaels, Martina McBride, Young MC, Morris Day, and the Commodores all dropped out after claiming they just found out Donald Trump was president. Now, here's where I criticize Trump on this show, which we try to work in a little criticism of Trump every week, because just to show that I'm not a complete and utter partisan hack, I think Trump blew that one. Well, no, I'm pretty sure he blew that one. It just got a little too Trumpy, the whole America 250 concert. And you know that TDS has metastasized to the point that it now is just infesting every single cell on a cellular level, the bodies of many far-left folks. So just being within 100 miles of anything that has Trump's name on it or that Trump is even going to be at is going to get you death threats if you're an entertainer in this country. So I get why they dropped out. Trump should not have been, he should have said from the beginning, I'm not going to be at this thing. It's not about me. This is America's birthday. But I guess he couldn't help himself. And, and he had to put the Trump stamp on it. Well, now that's what you're stuck with. Anyway, welcome back to Mark Mosley Show. By the way, it is Pride Month. June is Pride Month, and July is Gluttony Month, and August. In August, we celebrate laziness. In August, it will be Sloth Month. And in fact, in our house, in the Mosley house, we're celebrating Pride Month by transing our cat. Remember, all public service announcement now, always trans your pets to control overpopulation. Well, it's time for the doofus of the week. A drunk thief tried to steal the statue of St. Michael the Archangel from a church in Monterrey, Mexico. Big mistake. Local media reported during the early hours of January 14th, Carlos Alonso, 32, allegedly went to the Christ the King parish in downtown Monterrey to rob the church. In the darkness, Alonso reportedly jumped over the fence in front of the church entrance, broke a glass door, and entered the building. While trying to flee with the statue of St. Michael the Archangel, he tripped and fell, seriously injuring his neck. Luckily, or maybe God's trying to give you a second chance, a passerby saw the wounded man bleeding by the church doors, called for medical help. First responders arrived quickly, cutting the padlock at the main gate of the fence and saved the would-be thief's life. But you're wondering, how was the man seriously injured? Well, he was carrying the statue of St. Michael the Archangel, tripped, and impaled himself on the sword held by St. Michael the Archangel. The statue was unharmed, but the man did live through it, so God is the God of second chances. But I wouldn't push it. And finally, some good news. We love the good news on this show. It was just an ordinary day in an ordinary family walking along when something tiny and adorable and out of place caught their eye. A little ball of fluff with giant eyes and oversized feet was following them. A baby wood duck, all by himself, no mother in sight, no siblings, just this little creature marching along behind them like they were the family it had been looking for. Now, a lot of people might have shooed it away or smiled and taken a video for Instagram. But this family, the duck found the right family. This family looked at that fragile little life that was, just following them in a big old dangerous world. And they said, you know what? Something's wrong here. We don't see mom around. This tiny orphan had attached itself to some friendly faces as if to say, help me. Can I come home with you? So instead of taking the easy route, they did the hard thing. They did the right thing. They gently scooped him up and got him to a licensed wildlife rehabilitator where it could receive the care it needed to one day fly free and live the life that it was born for. By the way, Audubon notes that if a duckling is trapped or truly separated from their family, that's the thing to do to reunite the duck either safely with the mother if possible, and if the mother's not around, contact a rehabilitator for help because baby birds need specialized care. But in a world that often celebrates keeping and trying to raise it by yourself and, having all the glory, this family said, we're going to do the absolute right thing. We're not going to try to make him some backyard pet. They turned it back towards the wild where it belongs. And today, somewhere, that little wood duck is getting stronger and growing up because that one ordinary family chose to be extraordinary. And that would be the show, except we can't go until we reveal to you the rare albino buffalo in a Bangladesh zoo that has been drawing bigger crowds than Punch the Monkey. Punch the Monkey, by the way, his fame has fleeted. I understand Punch the Monkey is now doing OnlyFans. And I was going to do one of my famous comedic visual cutaways, but I won't go there. Oh, we could have had some fun with that, but it would have been inappropriate for this family show. But you can envision it. You don't need me. Punch the Monkey's doing OnlyFans. But yeah, there's a new international animal star that has pushed Punch the Monkey off the headlines. And it is this Bangladeshi buffalo who's in a zoo, and the crowds have just been swarming. He's an international media star. Why? Because his nickname is Donald Trump. Take a look at this picture and see if you can figure out why. Until next time, may God bless you with health, with joy, and with wisdom.